Donald Trump doesn't pull any punches when it comes to going after the media. He sued ABC and its host George Stephanopoulos for saying he raped author E. Jean Carroll. He sued CBS for editing Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview, then not releasing the full transcript, and he submitted a complaint to the FEC about the Washington Post for conspiring with the Harris campaign to promote articles that were negative about him. Now Trump is gearing up for another fight, this time with the New York Times. Welcome to Newspeak, I'm Holly Kellum. According to the Columbia Journalism Review, about a week before the 2024 election, Trump's attorney reportedly sent a threatening letter to the New York Times and Penguin Random House. It threatens $10 billion in damages for false and defamatory statements contained in articles by Peter Baker, Michael S. Schmidt, Suzanne Craig, and Russ Buettner. The letter cites harm to the value of Trump Media and Technology Group, which goes by the ticker symbol DJT. If not for the actions of the Times, the letter says, the stock would likely be even higher now than it is. One of the articles by Times reporter Peter Baker laid out all of Trump's legal troubles, implying that he is a criminal whose legal troubles will only go away if he is reelected. The second article by Michael S. Schmidt extensively quoted Trump's former chief of staff John Kelly, who called him a fascist and said he had no empathy. The book at issue, Lucky Loser: How Donald Trump Squandered His Father's Fortune and Created the Illusion of Success, was written by Times reporters Suzanne Craig and Russ Buettner. According to CJR, which got a copy of the letter, Trump's attorney particularly took issue with the book's portrayal of Trump's time on The Apprentice, which the book describes as highly stage-managed. CJR cited an unnamed source as saying the Times responded to the letter by referring all complaints about the book to Penguin Random House. As for the two articles, it said it's standing by its reporting. CJR didn't get a response from Penguin Random House, and as of this recording, neither did I. I also contacted the Times and Penguin Press, the actual publisher of the book, and Trump's lawyer, and if I get a response from any of them, I'll put them as a comment below. Now, so far, this is just a legal threat from Trump's attorney. As far as I know, there hasn't been a lawsuit filed against the Times or Penguin Random House, but it very well could. The same lawyer, Edward Andrew Palcic, has already filed a lawsuit against CBS News. Just as with the Times, he's also seeking $10 billion in damages, saying that CBS News made an in-kind campaign contribution to the Harris campaign by doctoring her 60 Minutes interview and not releasing the transcript. And he sued the New York Times before. In 2021, he sued 3 New York Times reporters, 2 of them Buettner and Craig, for publishing a story about his taxes using tax documents provided to them by his niece Mary Trump. Trump lost the case and was forced to pay almost $400,000 towards the Times legal fees. However, a New York appeals court ruled in May that he could continue his lawsuit against Mary Trump. Now, to a lot of people, this latest lawsuit looks like Trump trying to get retribution now that he's back in power. You probably heard that Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski of Morning Joe went to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring, so to speak.
And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
According to CNN, they were worried that Trump is going to go on a revenge tour once he's back in the White House. And since the Morning Joe host got on the bandwagon of calling him Hitler, they think they might be in the crosshairs. Now, there is this fear in the media writ large that Trump is going to go after journalists once he is in office. Press freedom groups have been warning about the dangers of a second Trump presidency, and as evidence, they cite his comments about journalists being the enemy of the people and the media coverage of him being fake news as indications he will use his power to weaken protections that members of the press enjoy. They think he may use censorship, lawfare, and the bully pulpit of the presidency to sick his supporters on his critics in the media. I did a whole video about this, which I'll include a link to in the description, but suffice it to say, there are still a lot of unknowns at this point. You can look at his first year in office as a blueprint of what he might do, which again, I talk about in that previous video, or you can look at his comments on retribution and what he plans needs to do once in office. Bloomberg News asked him in an interview on June 25th, in certain speeches, you've vowed retribution against Democrats and government officials you believe have wronged you. Trump asks, I vowed it? The reporter says, stated it. Trump asks, when was this? The reporter says, I believe at rallies and speeches. Trump says, I don't know that I vowed it. The reporter says, we'll double check that, but you've also attacked companies. Trump says, I actually vowed retribution. What I actually said is, success will be my retribution. The reporter says, my question then was, you've also attacked companies like Amazon and its CEO Jeff Bezos. I wondered if the desire for retribution also extended to companies and executives. Trump said, I think the Washington Post is really unfair. Side note here, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos also owns the Washington Post. Now back to Trump. He said, and I attack the Washington Post constantly, and it's obviously had an impact. They've lost half of their readers, but I think that, I think he's done a great disservice to himself. So I think having the Washington Post be unfair is, bad. Now, he is a very rich guy, but nobody wants to lose $150 million a year, which is the real number. Editorial note from me here, the only number I've seen about how much the Post is losing each year is in the ballpark of 70 million, not 150 million. Okay, but maybe that figure is more accurate after it decided not to endorse Harris this year and lost 250,000 subscribers. But going back to the interview, Trump said it's a lot of money to lose to have, to try and make a lot of enemies because I think the Washington Post had an opportunity to do something great, and they became just a political machine that's not doing well and maybe will close. Even rich people aren't going to spend that kind of money to keep it open. But no, I don't have retribution against anybody. He was asked the same question by Kristen Welker on Meet the Press in September 2023.
When you launched your campaign in March, you told the crowd, quote, I am your retribution. What does that mean? What does that look like?
I think retribution is talking in terms of I have to protect people. What they're doing to people is so horrible. They're putting people in jail for long periods of time. Firemen, policemen, accountants, even lawyers. They're in prisons for years now and don't even have trials in some cases. And if you look at Antifa and other groups, practically nothing happened to them. They burned down Portland. They burned down Minneapolis. They took over Seattle. I mean, they literally took over a big chunk of the city. People died and nothing happened to them. We have to protect all people.
But when you talk about retribution, are you talking about directing your attorney general to try to go after your political enemies?
When I talk about retribution, I'm talking about fairness. We have to treat people fairly. These people on January 6th, some of them never even went into the building, and they're being given sentences of, many years.
Now, could he say one thing and do another? Certainly. But I've looked at the transcripts of all his remarks going back to when he was in office, and when he talks about retribution, he only uses it in two contexts. One is, like he said, getting elected again will be his and his supporters' retribution. The other is empowering the police to do their jobs so that there's retribution if someone commits a crime.
We are a nation where large packs of sadistic criminals and thieves are allowed to go into stores and openly rob them, beat up and kill their workers and customers, and leave with armloads of goods, but with no retribution worthy.
Now, most recently, what Trump told Fox News Digital is that he has an obligation to the American people to work with the press, even those who had treated him badly beyond comprehension. He also said, in order to make America great again, it is very important, if not vital, to have a free, fair, and open media or press. Maybe his visit with the Morning Joe co-host was part of that. Trump said he received a call from Scarborough asking for a meeting, which he acquiesced to. After the fact, Trump said, many things were discussed, and I very much appreciated the fact that they wanted to have open communication, adding, in many ways, it's too bad that it wasn't done long ago. He also said he expects this to happen with others in the media, even those that have been extremely hostile toward him. So what do you think the next 4 years of Trump's relationship with the media is going to look like? Do you think it will be more lawsuits against media companies and journalists, or do you think it will be more kissing and making up? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, I have one simple favor to ask of you. In addition to leaving a comment for the algorithm gods, which I so appreciate, what would really help boost this video is by sharing it on social media. YouTube likes to see that this video is getting traffic from sources outside of YouTube, so if you could please give it a share on other platforms, I would really, really appreciate it. Once again, I'm Kellum, and you're watching Newspeak.